everyone, so I am going to talk about something that I really should have talked about a long time ago, and this is really the bane of anyone that's into loricariidae, into plecs, into catfishes, any bane of your life really having to do with this. But how many of us got our first plec, first loricariidae to deal with algae, to clean the tank, to remove fish waste? I think the majority of us did get it that way. And for how many of us, it quickly changed our perception of them. Many people might be considering a plec, a loricariidae, for cleaning their tank and thinking what species would be great for it. So I'm going to really delve into this subject because I dealt with it for so long, because I worked in the pet trade, in the aquarium trade for 6 years, just over 6 years, and I also study scientifically loricariidae and plecs, and I'm really interested in their dietary, anatomy, morphology, evolution. So how are they sold? A lot of them have these labels saying algae cleaner, great for dealing with algae, cleanup crew, necessity, you need it in your tank, you can't have a tank without one. Some species are really cheap, especially in the past in the UK, maybe not so much now, but in other countries as well. Plecos and maybe a long time ago plecostomus were really cheap. And there often a lot of people really struggle with algae in their tanks, and there's probably so many reasons why. Generally a new tank is unstable, so you're going to get algae, and this doesn't mean that loricariidae are going to be the solution to that. My tanks I don't actually clean, and I rarely notice any of them on the glass, so therefore they aren't cleaning it. And if they were, you'd see sort of bite marks, but there is clear, you can't see it, but there's bacterial films on the tank. So there's a lot more to algae than that, but there's so many videos to go over how to deal with algae without loricariidae, and it is really possible. It's just getting the tank mature enough, I think. But these fish are sold to deal with algae and to deal with waste. These fishes actually live a long time. They can live decades. Even the smaller species, I would say otocinclus maybe about 15 years, but the other smaller species of loricariidae, hypostomine, stuff like the clown pleco, Panaclus AF-Macas, Panaclus macas L448, stuff like that. And if you want to know whenever I mention L number what that's about, I've got another video about L numbers, but and how we classify plecos. They can live easily 20 years, so it's a long commitment. That's longer than a dog or a cat, and there has been species that will live well over 50 years, and the oldest that I know about that was actually recorded is 85 years, and many are dying a lot younger than that. So that really shows that they are not an easy species, and they are not a solution. They need their own food. The algae in tanks are not suitable as a full-on diet. You do not have the diversity of algae they will feed on in the wild. They will also need something that will replicate the bacteria, which is included biofilms, the protozoa, the freshwater sponges, the rotifers, and they don't all eat the same thing. And I say that you need something to replicate that, but there's also species, so you've got the genera Scobenensis, which is sunshine plecos, you've got the Pseudocanthus, Leprocanthus, which are cactus, and then galaxy and vampire plecos. They are more carnivorous, but even within those herbivorous ones, which are the majority that feed on algae, bacteria, stuff like that, they do partition it, so they're really complex fishes, and no tank is going to provide that much for them. A lot of tanks are pretty much sterile in the fact that a lot of people treat their tanks, especially at first. You might I have a feeling, and I know I've seen it, that a lot of people when they first start their tank up, a lot of things go wrong, and that can probably really hammer down on the bacteria that is actually, or the microbes that are actually growing there, and even then there's not really that much to sustain them. Naturally they're probably feeding a lot of the time, so they need feeding. I feed mine daily, and that is a lot, and especially when many are so specialist that many diets don't really cater for them, it can be actually pretty pricey. A lot of these species are actually pricey already. Sometimes they can be so limiting on what else you have in the tank. Many Loricariidae that are particularly popular, I guess pricey: zebra pleco, which is Hypancistrus zebra; golden nugget, which is Baroncistrus xanthellus, also L numbers L18, L81, L177 and L85. There's an LDA number. Also the sunshine Scopidancistrus auratus. Many of those need very high temperatures, 28 degrees or above, so that crosses out a lot of tank mates. So you can't, Corydoras, no. Barbs, most likely most of them, no. Many of these fishes also like higher flow, so that crosses out a lot of sort of gouramis, anything sort of that doesn't like a lot of flow in the water. Another thing is they're very slow feeding, so you can't have anything that's particularly fast feeding. That already crosses out barbs, crosses out a lot of cichlids. I think geophagus were the bane of my life. I could not get enough food down to the bottom of a tank just to feed my Loricariidae in those setups, and it was multiple setups, and other cichlids are the same. And it is really limiting on what you can keep with them because they are such slow feeders. So temperatures vary. They do have specialist diets. There's also cooler water species. So Chaetostoma has quite a few. And generally what they eat is just so diverse compared to captivity, and that's the point I'm making, that no aquarium is going to sustain them, and many species won't even feed on those algae. Many species won't even feed on diatoms. They don't have the teeth to do it. Diatoms are really thick, so they got a casing made of silicate, so I'm not sure what I can say also as silicates. It's the only thing I can think of as diatoms. So it's like this hard shell casing, and it's really tough for them to break down. Then you got blackbeard algae. I have never seen any touch blackbeard algae. I've never really seen them touch diatoms. So diatoms you see probably scattered across the front of a tank, and you can't get them off with a sponge. You can't get them off with much. Debit card, gift card, that sort of thing is really good if you're really brave with Stanley Blade. So that will get them off, and generally the best thing for algae is just doing it yourself until your tank does it, really, or just leave it like I do. You can't see the water stains on my tank, I don't think, on all my tanks, even the Viv. There is water stains all across it, so if I don't do them, I definitely don't algae clean, and there's no need to. It's not harmful. The algae is more of an indicator, I'd say. But they won't touch any of your hazard algae, and cyanobacteria, you need to have real good luck if they really did touch that stuff, because they won't. They are probably cyanobacteria that they will eat in captivity, in the wild. So generally you're looking at a diet that has a lot of algae in, very low down in the ranking: fish meals, insect meals, krill meal, very few vegetables. You want that low down because vegetables do not replicate algae. They are not even, I would say that, actually no, that doesn't work, but they are very distantly related, algae to plants, and algae are high in protein, a lot of nutrients, but cucumbers certainly won't replicate that, lettuce won't. Courgette I think is good for getting a fish feeding from captivity, but other than that it's a bit meh. So really you want a very high quality diet. So I feed mine with pashy, and it does add up in cost. I'm paying quite a bit just to feed them. And even then, it doesn't partition their niches down enough, which is really difficult because algae are actually expensive to buy as an ingredient. So they won't clean your tank, and if they do, they produce a lot of waste. Generally, just the way they are is they produce a lot of solid and liquid waste, a lot of ammonia, a lot of solid waste, and some genera do more than others. Panax is probably the worst for it, but I would say also Panax, well, for their size, Panax do produce a lot anyway, but Panax for their size, they're really small and they produce a lot. Pteroplectes, that's your common plecos, as is hypostomus. They still generally, because Panax and Panax, they feed on the microbes within wood naturally in their diet in the wild. So the wood will come out as a byproduct. I think so. The small bits, I assume, are actually from the mouth. So as they're feeding, they get released, and the long waste trails, that byproduct of wood, is generally just the ones that have entered the gut. It doesn't mean it's for digestive benefit, and I've got a video on that if people want to watch it. So bear that in mind, that they do produce a lot of waste. You'll be water changing more than you'll probably be algae cleaning if you're not careful. So that's probably the most important thing. Loricariidae are actually really complex. There's 1,020 different species of Loricariidae, which is plex. And many feed on different things. They will have different temperature, different flow requirements, different what else? Temperature, flow, setup, even diet, yes. And this makes them like very diverse. Aggression, I've got a video coming out, or I've already posted it, on aggression and territoriality. So they're not an easy fish, and generally I would say you kind of have to design the tank around them, not around the other fish, because of how complex they are. That's if you want them, because otherwise you could design a tank around another fish and maybe push for a species that might match but might not. Whereas Loricariidae, you kind of, the tank mates depend on what species you've got, and not all work together, and their requirements don't always overlap, and that's really important to recognise. And there is just so many species. A big misconception is that they all grow big. They don't. They really don't. So a lot of people will see those typical algae eating plex, or ones they're sold as algae eaters. And associate them generally with Pteroplectes, hypostomus. I do have a video on that genus, two genera actually, and I might have another. I think I might have two, but those two get very much confused, and they can be sold quite young. So I've imported in Pteroplectes weberi, which is one of the smaller species of Pteroplectes. It was like that big. They were so cute and colourful. And just because they're common plecos doesn't mean they shouldn't be sold. They should just be sold responsibly, and the owner should still do the research, no matter what species they are. They're still stunning fish and still deserve recognition. Pteroplectes gibiceps is absolutely stunning. Ambrosetti, beautiful fish. Literatus you don't really see, but they're still beautiful. So they just do get bigger, but not all do, and it's important to recognise. And another thing people do is buy expensive species as like some ornate algae eater. Please don't. Please, and price tag does not matter. It does not reflect on difficulty or rarity even. Or rarity in captivity or rarity in the wild. Hypostomus lutus, really common in the wild. Pretty high price tag. What's an example of pretty rare in the wild? I guess doesn't really work. Hyponcistrus zebra is critically endangered. It's getting rarer in the wild, I would say. Not actually. It might be getting rarer, but the fact it was put on the CITES list, Appendix 3, and banned from export from Brazil really shows that it is probably getting rarer. It's still £100 or so, which compared to more common species, they're both really hardy species. Now compared to difficult species, Barren citrus xanthellus, Barren citrus chrysolamus, pretty much a quarter, third of that price, nightmare to keep, and citrus ranunculus generally about £30 or so, absolute pain in the arse to keep. So price means nothing. Price doesn't mean anything towards care, difficulty. No matter what you paid for a fish, it doesn't make you better than anyone else. And so I'm kind of wandering really into that sort of territory. A lot of people obsess over price tag fishes. And there's always crazes for different ones. And collector crazes. Don't fall into collector craze. I might have to do a video of the one of each pleco thing. It's a really bad idea, especially as they age and the differences in requirements. It's best to sort of slow down, I think. Maybe I'll address sort of people starting out. If you really like Loricariidae, if you really like plecs, go for them. Just don't go all at once. Find ones you really like. Look at how they look as an adult. It might differ from the juveniles. And don't go all at once. Maybe you want quite a few. Pace it out. Don't pace it out over weeks or just months, because those fishes are probably always going to be in the stores. I'll say that, and that's when they start banning things. But there's no rush. Just pace it out, because these fishes live a long time and you've got them for a long time. So if you fill out your tank in a year, you've got that same setup for probably 20, 30 plus years if you care for them properly, which most people don't. So there's a very high mortality. So it's fine to have a few species. It's fine not to get everything at once. So don't worry about having maybe one species. In that tank I've got Ancistrus ranunculus and Ancistrus agriboensis. I want to set up another tank for agriboensis to try and breed. The Ancistrus ranunculus are too young. I've also got Ancistrus dermatoides, which is more of a hemiancistrus, but not a hemiancistrus, a special genus. And then I've also got common bristlenose. It's fine to have common species. They're still good. It doesn't matter if something's rare or common. It doesn't reflect difficulty or anything. They're still cool. I've had him since he was a little fry that I rescued. And then in that tank I've literally got Ancistrus xanthellus and Ancistrus chrysolamus, and I'm okay with that. Because it's fine to pace yourself, and it's fine to find what you're really interested to, and don't fall to trends. I've sometimes been tempted to go and try, because I have bred quite a few different species, like try and buy something just for like, I don't know why. Actually no, I've got L81 in there just as a grow out. And it's fine just to pace yourself, fine to keep common species, just yeah. There's so much like stigma around plecos, especially when it comes to higher price tags. And I think what's better is that I prefer knowledge over just numbers and price tags. It doesn't matter the price tag, the number of fishes, the amount you paid on them. So yeah, I'm gonna end that now before anyone. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you like my video, subscribe, comment, like, whatever. I'll probably be able to answer things in the comments, depends how busy I am. Anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye.